Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 935 of the daily content streak, and I'm gonna do something a little bit different today. I gotta do something just for me, if you will excuse the indulgence for a while. So I just got in from the new Godzilla movie, so Godzilla, Kong, the New Empire, and so I just want to talk some kaiju today. Just as long as I'm just in the mood here, just want to get this off. There is no organization to this. I haven't really plotted anything out. As you can see, for visual sake, we're just gonna have a dozen or so press images going across the screen. So nothing too huge here, and no spoilers, by the way. Everything that's gonna be shown on screen is stuff that's been in trailers. It's been in preview images. I will tell you when we're going to hit spoilers, okay? So I'll give you a chance to jump off if you want to go see the movie for yourself. So to just kick that off, just for a second here, just so we can get this out of the way, the movie is good. I really had fun with this movie. I'm going to tell you right now, if you are coming off of Godzilla -1, which is a fantastic Godzilla movie, do not expect the exact same experience. This is a very different, in fact, I would say opposite end of the Godzilla spectrum. The Godzilla spectrum is things like original Godzilla and Shin Godzilla, where you are viewing this from the human perspective and Godzilla being a natural disaster that is to be feared, versus the other end of the spectrum, which is Godzilla's kind of a heroic character, and I'm just here to see monsters punch each other. They are very different flavors. I saw a great one. I saw the great comparison someone made is that, okay, if -1 is a filet mignon, then New Empire is just a giant greasy cheeseburger. Yes, one is far better seasoned, far better prepared, and far more technically perfected, but the other one is just comfort food and just like greasy goodness. So they are both delicious meals, cooked from the same ingredients, but they are very different experiences. If you're going in expecting a great human story, you'll notice by the preview images, there's not a whole lot. Like, I'm not focusing too much on the human story. We actually got more time with the kaiju than I really expected in this movie. Where a lot of times you'd see them go to the human cast because, they want to tell you what celebrities are starring in the movie, or they want to basically avoid a lot of the CGI budget it takes to animate the monster fights. Okay. You know what? There's something fair about that. Okay, fine. But in this movie, they really do kind of thin things down a little bit. They keep the human story much like many of the Godzilla movies. They keep it fairly simple. They continue off of the previous Godzilla vs. Kong, where it's Dr. Andrews again, so same main character, the last survivor of the Iwai, Gia, so her adopted daughter, and it's very much like a movie about them. The human story is mostly about their issues, her connection to what, Gia's connection to what's going on between all the kaiju in this movie, and it's telling a very simple story, but it's not a bad story. And the rest of the human cast is fine. They are entertaining in their roles. Bernie is back, and his role is basically to react the way I would react in this situation, which is to point a camera at things, try to get content while he's at it, but ultimately act like a normal human being should act if you are in a world full of giant monsters and mystical mumbo-jumbo. So he does serve an entertaining purpose, a little bit in the story, but nothing terrible. He's more of a perspective character for the cast. And then there's Trapper, who's a trip. Trapper is... he's just fun. But still, like I said, not a lot of strong elements to the human cast. It is a lot about the kaiju. Special effect wise, it is really cool. Like, there's a lot going on in this movie that works really, really well. For reference, I saw it in 3D IMAX, because if I'm going to watch giant monsters punch each other, it's going to be in 3D IMAX. Worth the experience, I think. My brain did not like the parts where they like pan the view perspective 360. That made me feel a little bit woo-woo. But the rest is awesome looking. The rest is really cool. Let's see. What else can I talk about without spoiling anything? I will say, I think the villain of the movie, I never really felt convinced that he was like a credible fight, a credible threat to Kong or Godzilla. Mostly because of something we'll talk about in the spoiler section. I think he served a well enough purpose, but he ultimately is just more there to give Kong a new purpose, as it were, as far as like the evolution of the Kong character in the MonsterVerse. So like overall, like it is giant monster mayhem. They did a couple things that I haven't seen a kaiju movie do before, which I think is pretty cool. I think that's pretty good to be able to say after so many have been done after so many years. But yeah, like, is it story heavy? Absolutely not. It is monster heavy. It is monsters battling each other heavy. A lot more than I expected, as a matter of fact. So go see it for that. It's very much a popcorn flick. It's a very different, enjoyable experience than -1 is. So go in with that perspective, okay? Of course, if you've seen the legendary monster movies in the past, you pretty much know what you're in for. So I'm gonna leave off the spoiler-free section with that. You know what you're in for. I do think they ramped up the action and the screen time for the kaiju, which is great. But if you're going in for story, you're gonna be disappointed. So go in knowing what you're getting. Okay, and now I'm just gonna jump cut right here so I can get a drink of water. And then we're going to go into a spoiler section. So here's your warning. We're going to start talking the deep stuff now. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's talk about the nitty-gritty of this movie. This is a found family movie. I never thought I would see found family. And here's the one connection I can make between -1 and Godzilla Kong New Empire. They are both found family movies, whereas -1 is a found family amongst the recovery efforts from Godzilla's original appearance. This is found family for the freaking kaiju. For the human cast to the lesser extent. Just to cap off like the human storyline, like the debate here is like when they re-enter Hollow Earth, they find a new civilization who are basically the ancient Iwai. And they're the ones who are like the ancestors to the ones who made it to the surface and were on Skull Island. So they immediately connect to Gia, and the whole story element for that is Dr. Andrews thinking that Gia's going to leave her to be with the tribe, because that's kind of the whole thing. Gia is very much feeling like something is wrong with her, that she doesn't belong anywhere. Here's a place where she kind of belongs, but she chooses her adopted mother instead in the end. So, I mean, I don't feel like I got enough, like, between those two to really feel like, okay, yeah, absolutely, these two belong. Yeah, absolutely, she would choose the other way, because, like, everything with the Iwai was going great. So that was a little bit thin. I could have used something a little bit better for that. But again, it's found family tropes, right? And that goes for the Kong. So here's the thing. I really should have put this in the spoiler-free section, but let's just go with it here now. This is a Kong movie. Okay? Godzilla is just kind of off doing his own thing. Godzilla is basically Goku. Okay? Godzilla is Goku in this movie, because he's off training and powering up and getting ready for an even bigger battle, while Kong is doing the bulk of the actual work. So, like, Kong's Krillin. Not in a bad way. I mean, like Frieza Saga Krillin, so Krillin is still very useful. And very much has a point to the story. But what I mean by that is Kong's the one driving the plot and driving the story, because the villain is the Scar King, who is a leader of a tribe of giant apes in Hollowed Earth. And they play this story early on in the movie where Kong is noticeably lonely. Like, he hears a roar nearby, and it turns out to be just this lizard who can, like, inflate and roar really loudly. But because he's trying to find someone of his kind, you know? So when he comes across this new layer of Hollow Earth, where he meets this little Kong, this little ape, and finds that there are more like him. But they're led by a far more violent Scar King, and Scar King is just an absolute jerk of a character. Because we see him at one time, like, they come to, like, there's an ape that comes to, like, the little baby Kong, Zuko. They never name him in the movie, but the name is Zuko. There's an ape that comes to his aid, and for the to kind of protect him from the Scar King. And for his trouble, he gets kicked into lava. Great. Lovely. So that happened in the movie. So Scar King, there's a storyline here where, like, they're ancient, the apes were ancient enemies of Godzilla until Godzilla trapped them into this, bottom layer of Hollowed Earth. And Scar King has been trying to get back up to the surface. So there's a goal here of, like, don't let Scar King get back to the surface. Not because Scar King is a threat, but because he controls a kaiju who can literally cause another ice age, because it's the kaiju that caused the ice age the first time. We are introduced to Shimo, a new kaiju who is ice-based. Which, I love ice powers in fiction, by the way. They're some of the most nonsense powers out there, but they are really, really cool looking. And I mean, I love this because, like, most kaiju we've seen, they shoot electricity, they shoot fire, they shoot radiation. Ice is a new one. Which is cool. Now, in this kind of movie, mystic mumbo jumbo, and kind of like there's some semblance of magic in this movie. Okay. Just blasting cold is pretty cool. In a thermodynamic real-world situation, there is no such thing as cold. There is only the absence of heat, which means Shimo is actually using her abilities to destroy the heat around her and project that to destroy the heat on you and around you and in you in order to freeze you, which I think is a far more terrifying way of looking at Shimo's powers. But I'm trying to avoid the pun of calling Shimo a very cool kaiju. I can't, because she is. I absolutely love the design. Absolutely love it. I also don't even know if I'm gendering Shimo correctly. It just comes across female. And I think I've heard female pronouns for the kaiju before. They've been very cagey about her existence. Like, she doesn't appear in much of anything until she started popping up in the toy pre-orders. Yes, I've already pre-ordered her. I can't help it. Awesome design. But no, she's being imprisoned by the Scar King, who's got control of her, who's got, like, physical control of her. It's one reason why I said I don't feel like Scar King was a credible threat to Kong himself, because they fight it out amongst this tribe. And Kong actually gets the upper hand for a moment, because he's just bigger and more powerful than Scar. But Scar wins the fight because he calls on his imprisoned kaiju to blast Kong. That's what causes all the damage that requires the prosthetic, by the way. So he never really comes across as like, oh yeah, he could beat Kong on his own. It's very much a 2-on-1 situation, which is why Godzilla is necessary for this one. But it does kind of take away from Scar King's overall menace, you know? And when they do get to the surface and like Shimo starts causing another ice age, okay, that's a little bit terrifying, but still, it always again does not feel like the Scar King really being the big villain here. He just feels like he's maybe a little bit of a little underpowered, and he's just kind of relying on Shimo. He really is. It is cool. It is cool. Like the scenes we get to see Egypt destroyed. I've seen a few too many movies now where just the Great Pyramids get destroyed by giant threats. Okay, but you know what? Fair. Rio de Janeiro gets frozen solid. That was fun because you never. Kaiju battles on a beach are interesting. Hadn't seen that before. There's a fight scene in Hollowed Earth. So the whole thing with the EY is that they know how to control gravity down in Hollowed Earth, which is how they power all of their stuff. It's how their society works. And they cause this like anti-gravity field for a moment. So all the kaiju, as well as a few of the random apes, get to battle in zero gravity, which is a trip in 3D, by the way. That scene alone, I think, is worth the 3D experience. So you have that. You have you have a lot of fight. You have a lot of really cool, like, interesting dynamics to the fights. As far as like human interaction and Gia's whole position in it, she still can't communicate with Kong, which comes into play as well. She is sensing the same thing that Godzilla is sensing, which is the EY using their gravitational abilities to basically send a distress call. Because they know the Scar King's out, as it were, and they are trying to alert Godzilla. So throughout the entire movie, Godzilla is basically going around the world stomping monsters to absorb their radiation. There's a scene for both of them. Godzilla and Kong separately battle Leviathan-style kaiju. One that goes unnamed, and Kong just takes its head off underwater. So that one was over quick. Over quicker was Godzilla's battle with a monster named Tiamat, which is not a 5-headed dragon from Dungeons & Dragons. It's basically a Leviathan. It's an underwater serpent monster. It's described as this huge, high-level threat. Godzilla immediately wipes it out, but its den just happens to be in a place that allows for a ton of radiation absorption. Science mumbo-jumbo that is probably very untrue, but you know what? It gave Godzilla the ability to mutate into the new form, which is the pink scales and the pink radiation, and on screen looks absolutely epic. I would be fine if MonsterVerse Godzilla looked like this forever now. By the way, did go right up the road to Target to grab a few toys after this movie. Of course I did, because that's how much I liked it. Toys are being, like, for my usual audience, my Hasbro Transformer people, they're doing the same thing Hasbro did, like, in the mid-2000s, where they're scared of releasing pink in a boys line, so instead they go to this kind of salmon red that's kind of pink but mostly red, the same way they did like animated RC. They did that to the Godzilla toy line, and I'm not happy about it. Haya Toys, it's doing Shimo, also doing a Godzilla in proper pink. That's the one I want. That's the one that looks super pretty. Gotta wait a long time for it, but you know what, whatever. So the toys are super cheap, but they're super cheap toys. So like they'll do for now. For $10, I have a Shimo for now. That's beside the point. So like I said, like Godzilla's kind of a non-factor in this movie because he's just kind of off powering himself up for this, for this big fight that he's getting this alert for. But when Kong is recovered, like that's where the gauntlet comes from. The gauntlet, by the way, is this like apparent, like they decided off screen to start making like a power armor for Kong to like power him up just in case the threat is too much for him. And apparently they canceled it because powering up one of the strongest kaiju on the planet is probably not the best idea for most people. But just conveniently, down in Hollow Earth at their main station, part of it was there, and it just happened to be the part that Kong injured in the fight. This is all super convenient. So is having working equipment that can fly it to Kong where he's injured in order to heal him up. There is a like a minor subplot in the way here, because like Kong starts off with like an infected tooth that gets so bad he comes up to the surface and hopes that like Monarch can fix it, which they do. Scar makes fun of him for having a metal tooth instead, and then Kong gets back at him by knocking out his Scar's tooth, which I think is a hilarious little like all the way around thing. It's no, all that's fine. So like as you say, like they do a lot here. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of just like dumb movie convenience. Which, you know what? Okay, fine. That's all good. That's all well and good. The other part of the movie that they are obfuscating is the fact that we get Mothra. And that's Gia's whole point. I went way off topic. I went way off track, didn't I? Went way off track. Gia's whole prophecy is that it takes an EY from Skull Island, from the surface, to awaken Mothra once again. And we don't have to wait for the egg and the larva and the cocoon and the Mothra. She just comes back, and she's glorious. She doesn't play a huge part in the final battle outside of she is very much like the paladin hero character. She's the one that gets Godzilla and Kong to calm down in order to cooperate. She's the one beating a lot of the apes during the zero gravity fight and saving the humans. She actually goes out of her way to save the humans who are kind of flying around during this whole encounter. So she is very much playing a hero character. So she doesn't play a huge part, but it's cool to see her back. And it's going to be cool to see, if they do future movies. I hope they do future movies, because the box office for this one opening weekend was huge, so please do more. It's going to be cool to see what they do with her. It's going to be cool to see what they do. Remember, found family movie. The movie ends with Kong and Zuko going back to the apes in the lower layer of hollowed earth with Shimo. Shimo, who's now off chain, and Godzilla's like scritching Shimo, like Shimo, like under the, like on the head and under the chin, like it's like his puppy now. New, super cool new kaiju, gets to come out, gets to live, which I was really happy about. And then Zuko kind of gets adopted by Kong. So again, weirdest found family movie I've ever seen, but it kind of works. I like the finale of the big battle too. Because the finale is once Shimo is freed of Scar's control, first chance she gets ices him, which is hilarious, and then Kong just power slams him. By the way, for wrestling fans, Godzilla does hit a vertical suplex on Kong at one point in this movie, which is amazing. Godzilla, I wish, played more of a role in the final fight. Similar to, like I said, he's kind of Goku in that when it comes down to the final fight, he's mostly just throwing energy blasts. He doesn't get like hugely physically involved. It's mostly just coming to Kong's rescue. Again, it's a Kong movie with Godzilla basically playing backup, which is unfortunate, but it is how the story played out. And Godzilla's going to have more movies after this, so he'll get to star again. He does get to stop the Ice Age. He's aware enough and protective enough. I still like this idea that Godzilla is like, the surface world is basically his domain, and he doesn't like anyone messing with it. So destroys indiscriminately, but it's only in defense of what he calls his territory, and it doesn't do any unnecessary damage. All things considered. It's a cool portrayal, because it's like destructive but heroic. It's very much like the Avengers movie Conundrum. So like that's my general like spray and pray thoughts about the movie itself. There's a lot in it I like. I needed like at the ending, I I needed a narration of someone just asking, what happened to Kong? Well, he returned to Hollowed Earth, to the Kongs there, where now that he's defeated Scar, he is, he'll be the new Alpha. King Kong. Name drop, credits. That's what you needed. That's the only little touch at the end I'm missing. That's it. Everything else, I think, worked really, really well. Also, Godzilla using the Colosseum in Rome as his personal dog bed. Perfect. Perfect. I need a statue of that. So there you go. There's all the spoiler thoughts for the people who have seen it. This is just me, like, spitballing. Like I said, I'm not analyzing the movie. I'm just here to just geek out and go, that was really cool. I now need to pre-order expensive toys and play with the cheap ones while I wait for those to come in. So, thank you everyone for watching. If for some reason you watched because you wanted to hear the spoiler stuff, go watch the movie. Go watch the movie. Don't expect -1. Just expect a lot of really cool monster fighting scenes. I had a lot of fun. Like when even though it was in all the trailers, when Godzilla and Kong are charging together into the final battle, grin ear to ear. It's such an epic moment. So, there's all my thoughts. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.